This is Doug Green, and I'm the publisher of Technology Reseller News, and this is a special podcast for TR Publications and the ASCDI. And it's my great pleasure to have with us today Andreas Fibiger, who's the chairman and co-founder of Insight Systems, and now the newly elected chairman of the ASCDI. Andreas, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And it's also my great pleasure to have my good friend and long-term associate, Joe Marion, who's the president of ASCDI. Joe, thank you for joining us today.
Doug, as always, good to see you.
Well, gentlemen, first of all, Andreas, again, congratulations on being elected chairman. And not only that, you're the very first chairman of the ASCDI to not be located in North America, not be in Canada or the United States.
Right.
First European chairman of the ASCDI, affirming that the organization is really global. So first, congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's a big thing, I would say also, and not only that you have had some very professional chairmen in the past, good fellow Americans, which I have learned a lot from myself, and so it's going to be heavy to lift the same job here and doing it from Europe, but there is a lot of things going on in Europe, and it's actually covering all of the world now that the ASCDI is an ITAD organization or association, and it's very relevant. So I'm happy to be able to represent the ASCDI in this case, and yeah.
Well, let's start there, gentlemen. And as much as we're going to have readers and listeners who are actually members of the ASCDI, we're going to have a very good number of people that are for the very first time hearing about the ASCDI. So what is the ASCDI, the ITAD Association? What is that today? What does that mean?
Well, we're an association of an international association of companies from around the world who represent the ITAD industry. ITAD meaning the Information Technology Asset Disposition companies. Companies that are responsible for taking technology products, putting them back into productive use, and keeping them out of landfills.
And Andreas, your own journey as a co-founder of Insight Systems, your journey sort of mirrors that journey that ASCDI has made to become an ITAD association.
Right. And I think probably a lot of our members have been on the same journey. For my company, Insight Systems, I think we've been a member since day one, basically, which is now around 17 years ago. And from being in as a computer hardware trader or reseller, just doing simple day-to-day business, importing, exporting, turning that journey into becoming like a full circle ITAD service provider. That's a big step, and it requires a lot of things, but it's also based on the requirements from our customers, and it's the direction that we see in this industry that everybody is going towards. How can you wrap some services around the products that you're offering? And the ITAD, it's a good way because there's a high demand. We saw, I think, through the years also some members that were going into the third-party maintenance route. That's also a way to wrap some services around what you do. And now ITAD, it's a great opportunity for those who are not yet there, and that's why ASCDI has. We have a lot to do to bring more members, more resellers, and computer hardware dealers, just to get them on and see. Look, there's a lot of things to do, and it starts with certifications and processes, and going into the whole nitty gritty of what are you doing and how are you helping your customers become more compliant and up to date with laws, and covers everything from data wiping and reporting. So that's a hot topic, although it sounds a little dry maybe, but that's I know that for a fact.
Well, Doug, Andreas touched on some of the business reasons why somebody wants to become an ITAD, but there's also the social reasons. I mean, Andreas, you have a few young kids, and I want to be able to look at the next generation of kids coming up and say, we did our part to help protect and save the environment, and ITADs, information technology resellers, have a big role to play in saving this environment. And so, and it's nice also, to look at your employees in the eyes and say, we're not just taking products, selling them, and making a profit, but we're making a difference. So there's the social aspect of it.
And Joe, let's talk about that just briefly. Historically, ASCDI came along so that we could have a guidance on ethics, we could have best practices, we could have a little bit of formalization in what was a rather informal used equipment market. And in the old days, to Andreas's point, it was get 70 or 80% off, and that was sort of the whole thing. Now it seems that there's a very different type of market here for ITAD services, not just the products themselves, but the service of ITAD.
Well, there's one thing that though is the same. Customers want to do business with companies that they feel comfortable with, companies that follow through on what they commit to do. And when the ASCDI was founded back in the 1970s, we created a code of ethics. The code of ethics had to do with transactions. I'm going to deliver it on time. I'm going to charge you. I'm going to pay for it on time. Today, those ethics now apply to I'm going to wipe your data clean. I'm going to make sure that your equipment is recycled in a proper manner. So, doing the right thing, following through on your commitments, that's not a new thing at ASCDI, at least. I mean, that's what makes ASCDI members ASCDI members.
Andreas, before we did our podcast today, you were telling me in detail how sort of tight that is. That every product, every part, every component is traced. We know exactly what's happening.
Yeah. There's a very detailed list of things in that process, and that's why I call it a full circle ITAD service, and it covers everything from the installation at the customer site, from the collection, the secure transportation to your ITAD facility where the products will then undergo a very precise process of testing and refurbishing and data wiping, and or maybe a shredding if it's completely impossible to data wipe, and then then the hardware will be put up for sale, for resale and repurpose. And if it cannot be resold, of course, it can be eventually recycled. And again, even the recycling will then be according to the standards of environmental compliance. So, and then on top of that, it finishes off with a lot of reporting back to the customers, exactly how many units of each item has been repurposed, how much went into shredding, how many kilograms of CO2 has been offset based on this whole process. There's a lot of reporting, and this is something that's very relevant to companies and enterprises today, because they have to do this. They have to do not a CO2 reporting, but they have to do a reporting on the climate effects of their whole business. It's a new standard, a regulatory standard from the EU called CSRD. And then, of course, we already have the GDPR directive, which is covering the data protection and the needs for data wiping, and that you have a certificate and a proof. And historically, a lot of companies were already offering data wiping, but when you start getting your company certified and you become certified into offering the ITAD service, that means you have third-party auditors going in and checking your company to see that, are you actually doing all what you say you do? Because everybody say they will do this, and they probably do what they say, but this is just another kind of quality stamp that you have been audited in what you do, and then you have ISO certifications, and then you can turn your business into a complete, what I call a full circle ITAD service provider. And
when an ITAD, when an ASCDI member, signs a contract with an enterprise, a customer, the customer's turning over, the keys to their car. There's a sacred trust that's going on there, where he's saying, here's my information, here's my data, here's my computer. I trust you to make sure that the data in that computer doesn't end up on the dark web. I trust you to make sure that that product doesn't end up in a landfill. I mean, there's a sacred trust, and certified ITADs and ASCDI members, those are the companies that you're guaranteed that they're going to follow through and honor that sacred trust.
So, Andreas, you are now
Yeah, I agree.
the new chairman of the ASCDI, and your board is freshly elected. It consists of some new faces. It consists of very experienced people as well. What's your vision for the coming year or two?
Yeah, well, I think since I'm new in this position, I have been on the board for a few years now, so I know the association well. I know the board members, and we have a good association. I think we have a lot of things that we can still achieve, and luckily, I would say we are in the environment we have right now in our industry is pushing a lot of services to wrap around your product offerings. So it's great. That's why we still call it ASCDI and the ITAD Association. It's a combination because we have also non-ITAD companies as members, and we certainly, of course, would like to have more members signed up because we want to get this message out, not only in Europe but in Asia and in the United States that it's a good idea to become a member of the ASCDI. There is a lot of content and information on how to be more professional in the services that you offer and how to find new ways of business and how to meet other companies and new suppliers or customers for what you do. It's a great opportunity. Not to mention the great conferences that are also being held. Opportunities to meet people face to face. I think that has been for me a good, all deals start with two people shaking hands. You meet face to face, and then after that, it might be two companies doing business, but everything starts with it's personal, right? So that's what I like about it.
So I understand that throughout the year there are events online and in person, and then there's like ongoing resources online all the time that members can enjoy, and also there's some resources that everyone can enjoy.
Yeah, well, let's start with the resources because probably the number one resource ASCI offers is our ethics process. If a enterprise, if a reseller, if an end user does business with a company in our industry, they can and it doesn't go the way they hoped it would go. They can file an ethics complaint with the ASCDI, and we'll hear that ethics complaint, be they a member or not. What makes it different about being an ASCI member is that if a company is an ASCI member, he's pledging to abide by our code of ethics. He's pledging to follow through on his commitments. And if he doesn't do that, he'll be expelled from membership in the ASCDI. So looking for the company that has the ASCDI logo is probably the biggest benefit we provide, not only the industry, but the world. So that's one thing. That's an ongoing benefit. Doug, you talked about events. We do virtual events online. We do physical events around the world. Coming up, we have on June 13th, we're going to be in Minnesota. We're getting together a bunch of ITADs in Minnesota going on a boat. We're going to have a little bit of a social party, a little bit of a networking party. On June 18th, we're going to be in Amsterdam doing a similar get together with our members from over in the EU. And then the first Friday of every month, we do an ASCDI happy hour. And anybody in the world can get on that. If you just go on to our LinkedIn page, you can sign up for the ASCDI happy hour. There's no cost. And it's just a way to get together and share what's going on in the industry and in your corporation.
Now be recorded.
So now, as we wrap up our podcast today, it seems also there's a message here for the MSP community, maybe also carriers enterprises. There seems to be an opportunity that you don't need to be an ITAD organization to be able to benefit from ITAD.
No, I mean certainly if you are an MSP or if you're selling hardware and you have the contact with your customers, you can always team up with an ITAD certified company, which you can find on look for that ASCDI ITAD certified, because as an ITAD provider, you work with partnerships and you can white label your services. You always need to go hand in hand. It's a question of covering areas, and you have your locations in certain locations, but you need to partner up in order to expand your coverage. And this could be a great opportunity for hardware resellers to also be able to offer the ITAD services and take back and offer that full circle of hardware treatment of the used equipment and put it back to life. So another reason to look into ASCDI.
Well, again, Andreas,
That
I want to.
website, by the way, Andreas, you were referencing is www.itadcertify.com. That'll give you a list of all the ASCDI members who are certified ITADs.
So, Andreas, again, congratulations and the best of luck as the new chairman of the ASCDI. I'm looking forward to our next podcast. And Joe, again, good job on keeping the ASCDI the leader in this market. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time today.
Doug, thank you.
Thank you very much.